Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you with a message of hope, joy, and divine anticipation. I want to remind you that God will surprise you very soon. Our Creator is a God of wonders, and He delights in showering us with blessings that we often least expect. Let us start by recognizing the power of expectation. Expectation and faith are two powerful forces that shape our lives and the world around us. To live with expectation means to hold on to a deep sense of anticipation for what is yet to come. It's about believing that something wonderful can happen at any moment and that God is actively working in our lives. When we cultivate an attitude of expectation, we unlock the potential for divine surprises to manifest. This is not a passive waiting, but an active engagement with life, infused with hope and confidence that our circumstances can change for the better. Faith, on the other hand, is the bedrock upon which expectation rests. It is a firm belief in the goodness of God, in His promises, and in His ability to bring about transformation. Faith is not merely a feeling, it is a choice we make every day. It's the decision to trust in something greater than ourselves, to believe that God has a plan for our lives and that He desires to bless us beyond our imagination. When we have faith, we open our hearts and minds to receive the unexpected gifts that God has in store for us. Many people live their lives weighed down by doubt and fear. They may have experienced disappointments or hardships that have left them feeling hopeless. This is understandable, but it is essential to recognize that these feelings can create a barrier between us and the blessings God wants to pour into our lives. When we allow doubt to take root, we close ourselves off to the possibilities that faith and expectation bring. We begin to see the world through a lens of scarcity rather than abundance. This shift in perspective can rob us of the joy that comes from believing in divine surprises. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to approach each day with the expectation that something miraculous could happen. What if we woke up every morning believing that today could be the day when our dreams come true? This mindset shifts our focus from what we lack to the opportunities that surround us. It encourages us to look for signs of God's goodness in the ordinary moments of life. When we expect good things to happen, we begin to notice the little miracles that often go unnoticed. The kindness of a stranger, a beautiful sunset, a moment of laughter shared with a loved one. These small surprises are glimpses of God's grace and love, reminding us that He is always present. Having a heart full of expectation requires us to actively nurture our faith. This means immersing ourselves in spiritual practices that strengthen our relationship with God. Prayer, meditation, and studying sacred texts are essential for deepening our understanding of His nature. The more we learn about who God is and what He has done in the past, the more we can trust Him in our present and future. We can draw strength from the stories of others who have experienced divine intervention and miraculous transformations. Their testimonies serve as reminders that God is not a distant being, but a loving Father who desires to bless His children. Moreover, we must surround ourselves with people who share our values and encourage our growth. Positive influences can uplift our spirits and remind us of the power of expectation and faith. When we engage in meaningful conversations about our hopes and dreams, we fuel the fire of anticipation within us. Community plays a vital role in helping us stay connected to our beliefs, keeping us accountable, and reminding us of the divine surprises that await. Living with expectation and faith also requires a willingness to step outside of our comfort zones. God often surprises us in ways that challenge our assumptions and push us beyond our limits. This might mean taking risks, whether in our personal lives, careers, or relationships. It can feel daunting, but remember that God has equipped us with everything we need to face the challenges that come our way. When we lean into our faith and take bold steps forward, we create the conditions for divine surprises to unfold. It's essential to understand that not every expectation will be met in the way we envision. Sometimes the surprises that God has for us look different from what we initially imagined. However, if we remain open and receptive, we can discover that these surprises are often far more significant than we could have ever anticipated. God's plans for us are always good, even when they do not align with our desires. Trusting in His wisdom allows us to navigate the uncertainties of life with grace and confidence. Expectation and faith create a powerful synergy that invites divine surprises into our lives. By choosing to believe in God's goodness, we open ourselves to a world filled with possibilities. Each moment holds a potential for transformation, joy, and unexpected blessings. It is through our faith that we cultivate a heart of expectation, ready to receive whatever God has in store for us. Let us embrace this journey with open arms, confident that God is always at work, preparing to astonish us in ways we could never imagine. Preparation for blessings is a vital aspect of living a life filled with expectation and faith. It goes beyond merely waiting for divine surprises to manifest. It involves actively engaging in the process of readiness. Just as a gardener prepares the soil before planting seeds, we too must cultivate the ground of our hearts and minds to receive the abundant blessings that God desires to pour into our lives. Preparation is an intentional act that demonstrates our belief in God's promises and our readiness to embrace the transformation He offers. To prepare for blessings, we must first take a reflective inventory of our lives. This involves understanding where we currently stand and recognizing any barriers that may hinder us from receiving what God has for us. Are there negative thought patterns or limiting beliefs that we need to let go of? Do we harbor resentment or unforgiveness that weighs us down? Identifying these obstacles is crucial in our journey toward preparation. We must engage in self-examination, asking ourselves what areas of our lives need healing or transformation. By doing so, we clear the clutter that can obscure our vision and prevent us from fully embracing the blessings that are on their way. Additionally, preparation involves nurturing our spiritual lives. We must prioritize our relationship with God by dedicating time to prayer, meditation, and studying His Word. These practices not only draw us closer to Him, but also equip us with the wisdom and strength needed to face the challenges that arise on our journey. Engaging with Scripture allows us to internalize God's promises, and through prayer, we can seek guidance and clarity on the steps we need to take in our lives. As we deepen our understanding of God's character and His intentions for us, we cultivate an environment conducive to receiving His blessings. In our preparation, we must also take practical steps toward our goals and dreams. This means setting clear intentions and creating actionable plans to align our lives with the blessings we seek. Whether it's pursuing further education, developing a skill, or cultivating healthy relationships, these actions signal our readiness to embrace what God has in store. It's essential to remember that preparation is not about striving for perfection. It's about making progress and moving forward. When we take proactive steps, we demonstrate our commitment to growth and transformation, paving the way for divine surprises to enter our lives. Another critical aspect of preparation is fostering an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to the abundance already present in our lives. By recognizing and appreciating the blessings we currently possess, we create a fertile ground for more blessings to flow. When we cultivate a grateful heart, we become more attuned to the wonders of God's provision. Each day presents opportunities to express our gratitude, whether through journaling, verbal affirmations, or acts of kindness toward others. This practice not only enriches our own lives, but also inspires those around us, creating a ripple effect of positivity and expectation. Furthermore, preparation for blessings requires us to be open and flexible. God often surprises us in ways we least expect, And sometimes his blessings may come disguised as challenges or changes. It's essential to approach these situations with an open heart, trusting that God's plans are always for our good. When we remain adaptable, we can better recognize the opportunities for growth that arise from unexpected circumstances. This openness allows us to see beyond our limited perspectives, enabling us to embrace the fullness of God's blessings in their various forms. We must also be willing to invest in ourselves and our personal development. This means seeking knowledge, acquiring new skills, and surrounding ourselves with mentors and supportive communities. Investing in our growth prepares us to step into the blessings that await. When we equip ourselves with the tools necessary to navigate life's challenges, we become more capable of receiving and managing the blessings that come our way. God often uses our personal growth as a way to position us for greater opportunities and responsibilities. Moreover, we should not underestimate the power of community in our preparation journey. Engaging with like-minded individuals who share our values and aspirations can provide encouragement and accountability. Together, we can uplift each other and share insights that may help us navigate our paths. Community fosters an environment of collective expectation, where everyone is inspired to pursue their dreams while celebrating the successes of one another. When we share our goals and intentions within a supportive network, we amplify the energy of preparation and create an atmosphere ripe for divine surprises. Preparation for blessings is an active and intentional process that reflects our faith and expectation. By engaging in self-reflection, nurturing our spiritual lives, taking practical steps, cultivating gratitude, remaining open to change, investing in our growth, and fostering community, we position ourselves to receive the incredible surprises God has in store for us. As we prepare, we align ourselves with His purpose and demonstrate our readiness to embrace the abundance of His love and provision. Each step we take in preparation brings us closer to the realization of our dreams and the fulfillment of God's promises in our lives. Now, let us consider divine timing. Divine timing plays a critical role in receiving the surprises and blessings that God has planned for our lives. It is a concept that often challenges our understanding because we live in a world that values immediacy. We are accustomed to getting what we want when we want it, but God operates on a different timeline. His timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. Understanding and embracing divine timing requires trust, patience, and surrender, knowing that what God has planned for us will come to fruition at the right moment. One of the most difficult things to accept is that there is often a gap between when we desire something and when God decides to deliver it. This period of waiting can feel like a test of our faith. We pray, we hope, and we believe, yet the answers don't seem to come when we expect them. In these moments, it is easy to feel discouraged or to question whether God has heard our prayers at all. However, what we must realize is that the waiting season is not a sign of God's absence, but rather a time of preparation. Just as there is a time for planting and a time for harvesting, there is a time for waiting and a time for receiving. During the waiting period, God is often working behind the scenes in ways we cannot see. He is orchestrating events, aligning circumstances, and preparing the right people to enter our lives. Just because we don't see immediate results doesn't mean that God isn't moving. Divine timing often involves a complex and intricate process that goes beyond our understanding. When we surrender to this process and trust that God knows best, we open ourselves to experiencing the fullness of His blessings at the perfect time. It's important to remember that God's timing is not about delay or denial, it is about precision. He knows exactly when we are ready to receive what He has for us. Sometimes we think we are ready for a particular blessing, but God sees what we cannot. He knows the areas of our lives that still need growth, healing, or maturity before we can handle the responsibility that comes with the blessing. His delays are not punishments, they are acts of love, ensuring that when the blessing arrives, we are fully prepared to steward it wisely. Think of it like a fruit that must ripen before it can be enjoyed. If you try to eat a fruit before it's ready, it's bitter or tasteless. But when it is given the time to ripen naturally, it becomes sweet and nourishing. In the same way, when God's blessings arrive at the right time, they bring with them joy, fulfillment, and purpose. If we rush ahead of his timing, we may find ourselves frustrated, disappointed, or unprepared for the challenges that come with what we desire. Embracing divine timing also teaches us the value of patience. In a culture where we are constantly encouraged to pursue instant gratification, patience becomes a rare virtue. Yet it is through patience that we develop resilience and character. The waiting period is often where our greatest growth happens. It is where we learn to lean on God more deeply, to trust in his plans, and to let go of our need for control. Patience refines us, allowing us to let go of our own timelines and trust that God's plan is infinitely better than anything we could have imagined. Divine timing is also a reminder that God's plans for us are unique. We may look around and see others receiving the blessings that we desire, and it's easy to compare our timelines to theirs. However, we must remember that each person's journey is different. What God has planned for one person may not be what he has planned for us, and that's okay. Just because someone else is receiving their blessing now does not mean that ours is not coming. It's simply arriving on a different schedule, a schedule perfectly tailored for us. Trusting in divine timing means letting go of comparison and focusing on our own unique path, knowing that God has something specifically designed for us. Another aspect of divine timing is recognizing that sometimes the answer to our prayers may come in a form we didn't expect. We might be waiting for a specific blessing, but God, in his infinite wisdom, may have something even better in store for us. Often the greatest surprises from God come when we least expect them, in ways that exceed our wildest dreams. His timing and his ways are higher than ours, and when we trust in his timing, we allow him the freedom to bless us in ways that are beyond our limited understanding. The story of Joseph in the Bible is a powerful example of divine timing. He had dreams of greatness as a young man, but instead of immediately stepping into that destiny, he was sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned. For years, it seemed like everything was going wrong, yet God was at work behind the scenes, preparing Joseph for the exact moment when he would rise to a position of power and fulfill his purpose. When that moment finally came, it was clear that all the years of waiting had been necessary to shape Joseph into the man who could handle the responsibility of leadership. His story teaches us that even when we don't understand why things are taking so long, God's timing is always perfect. Divine timing is an essential element of receiving the blessings and surprises that God has in store for us. It teaches us patience, trust, and surrender, reminding us that God's plans are always for our good. While we may not always understand the delays or the waiting, we can rest in the assurance that God's timing is perfect. When we trust in him and allow his plan to unfold, we position ourselves to receive blessings that are far greater than anything we could have ever imagined. Finally, I want to encourage you to reflect on the power of personal testimony. Personal testimony holds immense power in our journey of faith and expectation. It is through the sharing of our experiences, our stories of struggle, triumph, and divine intervention that we not only inspire others, but also remind ourselves of God's faithfulness. Testimonies are living proof of God's ability to surprise us, to intervene in our lives in unexpected ways, and to turn situations around for our good. When we reflect on what God has done in the past, we strengthen our faith in what he can and will do in the future. Each of us carries a unique story, a testimony of how God has moved in our lives. Sometimes we underestimate the significance of our own experiences, thinking they are too small or too personal to make an impact. However, Every testimony, no matter how big or small, has the power to change lives. When we share our testimonies, we create a ripple effect that can uplift, encourage, and ignite hope in others. It reminds people that if God could show up in our lives, He can certainly do the same for them. Testimonies also have a way of bridging the gap between faith and doubt. In moments when we struggle to believe or feel overwhelmed by life's challenges, hearing the stories of others who have experienced God's goodness can reignite our hope. Personal stories have a way of making faith tangible. They bring abstract concepts to life, showing us that God's promises are not just words on a page, but realities that can manifest in our lives. A testimony is like a beacon of light, pointing us back to the truth that God is real, He is present, and He is active in our lives. When we share our personal testimonies, we also acknowledge that we are part of something much greater than ourselves. Our stories are not just about us, they are about God's overarching plan and His desire to work through us to touch the lives of others. By sharing how God has surprised us or blessed us in unexpected ways, we become vessels through which His goodness is revealed to the world. Testimonies are a powerful tool for ministry because they show that faith is not merely theoretical, but deeply practical and real. They invite others to experience God's love, mercy, and grace in ways that are accessible and relatable. Furthermore, testimonies serve as a reminder of God's track record. Reflecting on past blessings, miracles, and breakthroughs helps us to trust that God will continue to show up in our lives. When we face new challenges or uncertainties, we can look back on our personal history with God and find reassurance in knowing that He has been faithful before and will be faithful again. Our testimonies act as anchors for our faith, grounding us when storms arise and reminding us that God has already proven His faithfulness. Sharing testimonies is also an act of gratitude. When we acknowledge what God has done in our lives, we express our thankfulness for His involvement in our journey. Gratitude keeps us grounded in the present and helps us to see God's hand at work even in the most difficult circumstances. Often when we take the time to reflect on our own experiences, we begin to notice the many ways in which God has been at work that we may have overlooked in the moment. This heightened awareness allows us to live with a deeper sense of appreciation for all that God has done and continues to do. Moreover, personal testimonies are a declaration of victory. They are the evidence that no matter what challenges we have faced, God has brought us through. Each testimony is a testament to the fact that trials do not have the final word, God does. Whether it is a story of healing, financial provision, restored relationships, or personal growth, every testimony is a reminder that God is a God of breakthroughs. When we share these victories, we empower others to believe that their own breakthrough is possible. In addition, testimonies have the ability to build community and foster connection. When we share our stories with others, we create bonds of shared experience. We realize that we are not alone in our struggles, doubts, or fears. Hearing someone else's testimony can provide a sense of solidarity and encouragement, reminding us that God is present in the midst of every challenge. Testimonies invite us into a space of vulnerability where we can be open about our journeys without fear of judgment, knowing that our stories will resonate with others and provide hope. There is also a unique power in telling our stories in moments when we are still in the process of receiving the fullness of God's promises. Even when we are waiting for God's surprises to fully manifest, sharing the journey can be an act of faith. It shows that we trust God's plan, even when we have not yet seen the outcome. This kind of testimony, rooted in faith and expectation, can inspire others who are also in seasons of waiting. It reminds us all that the waiting period is not wasted time, but a part of the process where God is still working behind the scenes. Finally, personal testimonies are a proclamation of God's glory. Each time we share how God has moved in our lives, we direct attention back to Him. We make it clear that the blessings, surprises, and breakthroughs we've experienced are not of our own doing, but are the result of God's grace and power. In this way, testimonies become a form of worship, honoring God for his continued presence and action in our lives. They allow us to give credit where it is due, pointing people back to the source of all goodness, God himself. In summary, personal testimony is a vital part of living a life of faith and expectation. It serves as a reminder of God's faithfulness and inspiration to others, and a declaration of victory over challenges. By sharing our stories, we not only bless others, but also deepen our own faith and trust in God's ability to surprise us in ways we never imagined. Through testimonies, we acknowledge God's ongoing work in our lives and open the door for even more divine surprises to unfold.